recording. Alright, like I said, we are going to be focusing on elasticity in this session. Right. That is the focus of this session. So there are many elasticities out there, guys, that we can focus on. There's price, there's income, and then there's cross, right? So in this session, we'll only focus on price. Right, we'll focus on price, elasticity of demand. All right, so what is this price elasticity of demand that we want to focus on? So I'll give you a definition that you'll find in your textbook, usually the one that you should use, and also you must reference when you do use it. So the price elasticity of demand is the change in the quantity demanded if the price of the product changed by 1%. All right, so I'll just summarize it for you. Okay, so it's the percentage change in quantity, and then I'll explain what this means. Right, in quantity demanded, right, caused by what? Caused by 1% change in price. So at first I gave you that definition. Probably you forgot about it right after I finished the sentence, right? So now I'll just explain it in simple terms using something practical. So it's a percentage change in quantity demanded, which is caused by 1% change in price. All right. So imagine Mr. Aldo is offering this ECO20A lessons, and then he charges 90 rands per lesson. All right, and he wants to know the price elasticity of demand for this ECO20A lessons. So let's say he increases, or he changes, right? Increases the price by 1%. So 1% of 90 rands is this 90 cents. Yes, 90 cents, right? It's 90 cents. Okay, so this is 1% change. Okay, that is 1% change. So this 1% change, this 1% change will result in quantity being demanded changing. Is there anyone asking a question, guys? All right, no one. So please, let's mute, guys.
Okay, whatever you want.
Hello, I want to mute you. All right. Okay, so I was explaining the 1% change in price, which is 90 cents here, right? So when Mr. Aldava increases his lessons from 90 rands to 90 rands 90 cents, there will be a percentage change in the quantity demanded. Maybe with this price, there used to be a demand of 100 lessons. So with that change, there is now 98 lessons demanded, right? So that's what price elasticity of demand is all about in simple terms. But you still have to know that definition that I provided right at the beginning. You'll just find it in your textbook if you want to memorize. But in case you wanted to understand, that's what price elasticity of demand is about. So how do we calculate this price elasticity of demand? Well, there's two ways of calculating this. there's two methods that you will be using, or they will ask you to use, right? So I'll just show all of them, and then we are going to use them in a question. So there is point elasticity, which is the simple one, and then there is midpoint, sometimes referred to as arc elasticity. So these are the only two in your syllabus, unless maybe they change the textbook and then they've introduced something new, but these are the only two that you will use to calculate the price elasticity of demand. All right, so we will look at the midpoint. I'll just write down the formula. So you must know the difference, guys, because they will be specific when they tell you to calculate the price elasticity of demand. They will be specific and say use midpoint or use point elasticity. And if you do not know the difference and you use the incorrect one, you will lose marks, definitely. Even the answers, they won't be the same. So the formula for this is going to be Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2, and then everything divided by P2 minus P1. So I'll just explain what these are, and then P2 plus P1 divided by 2, right? So what do this Q2 P1 mean, right? Q1. So Q, usually, not all the time, but usually in economics means quantity. This is the number of goods. And then P, usually, not all the time, it means price. All right, so quantity will be the number of lessons Mr. Aldawa is offering or are demanded by students, and the price is what he will be charging for his lessons, right? That's what it means. But now there is Q2 and then there is Q1. What is the difference? Q1 is the original price, right? Or the first price. It's the original or the first price. And then Q2 is the new price or the second price. All right. So what do I mean by new price, original price, or whatever? So let's say you've been attending with Mr. Aldawa last season. I mean to say last semester, right? And then he was charging 50 rands. Now he's charging 90 rands. All right. This here will be your P1. This here will be your P2. All right. Or maybe he was charging 90 rands. Now he has decreased. He's charging 50 rands. This will be your P1. This will be your P2. So please do not cram and say P1 is always the smallest, P2 is always the biggest, right? That's not how it works. You have to read the question and then see which one was the first one and which price was the second one. It's the same thing with quantity as well. So obviously with quantity, you guys wouldn't know, I would know, right? So I, as the producer of this online lessons, I would know that last semester I had people demanding 100 lessons, but now since I've increased my price, people are only demanding let's say 90 lessons. So I would know that this is the Q1, this is the Q2. Okay, and that's the formula that we will be using to calculate the price elasticity of demand using the midpoint or the arc elasticity. So any question with this before we move on? All right, so I did expect this because it's a bit easy. So now we move to point elasticity, right? So the formula is EP, and then you'll have change in quantity over change in price times P1 over Q2. All right, so the point elasticity, usually they say you must use it when you are given a demand function. All right, so a demand function, you will see something like this: QD is equals to, let's say, 100 minus 2p. Okay, this is a demand function. So when you are given this, usually they will say calculate point elasticity. All right, how would you use that? Of course, we're going to do a question, you would see that, but before we even attempt the question, maybe I can simplify it for you. So this part here, which says change in Q over change in P, is this minus 2 here. This is your change in Q over change in P. Simple as that. All right, maybe I can write it down and simplify it. So let's say I substitute over there. I'll simply write minus 2 times P1 over Q2. Obviously, your P1 is the first price, and then your Q2 is the first quantity, right? We would have to calculate the price. We would have to calculate the quantity. Usually, the price will be given. So this is something that you will see and understand very well when we do a question. Okay, so without going into detail, this is what elasticity is about. But then there's more, because after you calculate this, you then ask yourself, what do I do with this information? Okay, I did calculate elasticity. I can see it's 0.5. What does that mean? Right? What do I do with it? Okay, so the best way to understand about that, there will be more diagrams, but we won't cover diagrams today. We'll just do calculation and some reasoning. So we will see what this results will mean. Okay, so there are categories of price elasticity of demand. I think there's 5 of them. Okay, and then I'll just list them in short. My handwriting will be very, very messy because I'm trying to do as much as possible quickly, right? But the only thing that I'll take my time with is the calculation, because these notes anyways, I will share them with you fully typed. Okay. So I'm just going to list all the categories right now and then explain what they mean. So remember, I did say that it's 5 of them. So the first one that you will come across is perfect inelastic. All right, how would you know it's perfect inelastic? When your price elasticity of demand is equals to 0, right? When you calculate and you find that it's equals to 0. So usually in this case, the consumer, which is you guys, right, will buy fixed amount of goods irrespective of the price. So what that means is that when the goods that I'm selling, maybe let's say my ECO20A lessons, I did my research and then I found out that the price elasticity of demand is perfect inelastic. That would mean that my clients, no matter what I'm charging, they've made up their minds. They're going to pay for 3 lessons, right? Usually you find that this kind of goods, they are a necessity. You find that maybe there's 3 people at home, and then there's medication, and you guys, all 3 of you take medication. So regardless of the price, you buy 3, right? So we will say that that good is perfectly inelastic, because regardless of the price, you know that if the medication go up, usually people will still buy, right? Because they need it to make a living, right? To live, they need that medication. So we'll say that is perfectly inelastic. Okay, and then in this case, the producer will always profit. Imagine whatever you do as a producer, people keep buying your products. That's really right. You just profit, like Eskom. People just, Eskom just keep increasing the price. People will buy, right? it means electricity is perfectly inelastic. And then the next one that we have is inelastic demand. So when something is it has inelastic demand, the price elasticity of demand will be between 0 and 1, right? Let me say between 0 and 1. So you'll find that maybe it's 0,1 or 0,99, but it's never 1.1, right? So in this case, the consumer, which is you guys, will buy less if the price increases. All right, so if right now I increase the price of my lessons, you might just say, no, I don't want 12 anymore, I only want 10, right? But in this case, the change is very much in decreasing, right? So I'll still make money as a producer. I'll still make money. This will make more sense when we use diagrams, please believe me, right? But for now, that's all you need to know, that in this case, the consumer will buy less if I increase the price. So the moment as a consumer I discover that my goods have inelastic demand, I really have to be careful. Even though I know that if I increase, I'll still make more money, I really need to be careful. Then the next one we have unitarily elastic demand. I'll just write DM just to save time, right? The price elasticity of demand will be equals to 1 in this case. All right, so this one, the same thing as well. The consumer will buy less if I increase the price, and then also I'll also benefit nothing in this case. So the moment I find out that my goods are unitarily elastic, then definitely I won't touch the price. I'll just leave it as it is. And then the second last one, we have perfectly elastic. So the perfectly elastic, it's infinite, right? I don't think you can get this kind of answer on your calculator, but yes, the price elasticity of demand is infinite. And then in this case, the consumer will buy at one price only, right? The consumer will buy at one price only. It means you guys, you've made up your mind. You said we're only going to pay 90 rands for lessons. If it's 91, we're not buying. Okay, so if I've done my research, then I will also know that if I do touch the price, if I do dare touch the price, then definitely I'm losing my client. So I'm not touching the price. So you can see that these things, a consumer can use them to make decisions when they change their prices, right? In fact, companies do use these things. They know which position they are in. That's why they change prices or they don't change prices, because they do have this information. And then the last one is elastic demand. So when something is elastic demand, the price elasticity of demand is going to be between 1 and infinite, right? It's going to definitely be more than 1. Could have just written more than 1. All right, so what this means here, it means that if I increase the price as a consumer, if I increase the price, then I will lose more clients. All right, and then if I decrease the price, I will gain more clients. So if the ECO20A lessons have elastic demand, then I'll just decrease the price maybe by 10 rands, and then I'll gain lots of clients, right? So with this information, I can definitely make some correct decisions in my business. All right, so now that we know the categories, we also know the formulas that we need to calculate the price elasticity of demand. Let's use that information to answer a question. So there's this diagram here. Here's the x-axis, whereby you see there's a Q, it means quantity, right? So you have 0 up until, I can just say here's 30, right? 30 lessons. And then here on the y-axis, we have prices, right? From 0 rands up until, maybe we can say here's 120 rands, okay? This price per lessons. So Africa academics discovered that when they are charging 80 rands for their lessons, they get a demand of 20 lessons. All right, that's what they discovered. They discovered that when they're charging 80 rands, they get a demand of 20 lessons. So now they're thinking about increasing the prices to 100 rands per lesson. And then their research is telling them that there's a high chance that the demand will decline to 16 lessons. Okay, 16 lessons. This, by the way, is a demand curve. Supply curve will be something different. We will look at it next time, right? This is what demand curve is about. Okay, now let's look at a question here. It says use the diagram above to answer the questions below. So the diagram above is this one here. So we have to answer the questions below. The first question says use midpoint formula to calculate price elasticity of demand. So I will write down the formula, right? After I write down the formula, we'll also see how do we substitute. So this is going to be equals to Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 brackets divided by 2, everything divided by P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 divided by 2. Alright, so if this is still confusing for you, my advice is just do it like this, right? Q2 is equals to, then write Q1 is equals to, then write P2 is equals to, and then write P1 is equals to. Alright, so remember what I said at the beginning. I said that we decided that we want to increase our prices from 80 rands to 100 rands. Alright, so that means the first price was 80 rands, the second price is 100 rands. So our P1 will be 80 rands, and then our P2 will be 100 rands. Okay, so when we increased our price from 100 rands, I mean to say from 80 rands to 100 rands, the quantity actually declined. It went from 20 units to 16 units. So 20 will be P1, I mean say will be Q1, and then 16 will be Q2. So we'll have 16 here as a Q2, and then 20 here as our Q1. So now that we have the information, we can substitute. So you'll have there Q2, you have 16 minus 20 over 16 plus 20 divided by 2, and then our P2 there is going to be 100 minus 80 over 100 plus 80 over 2. So now it is time to calculate. So we saw that this is actually simple. I believe that it is simple, right? Now the next challenge will be using a calculator. Believe me, that is something that exists, right? And we should be careful when we use our calculators if we are not yet comfortable using them. Now the calculator that I recommend for everyone to use is a Casio, the pink one or the blue one. And the reason for that is because what you write down on your paper or what you type is exactly what will appear on your calculator when you want to calculate. So that will give you the confidence that what you are calculating is correct. what you might be doing might not be correct, but what you are calculating is actually correct, right? So I'm going to calculate this. I'll show the answer, and then if there's anyone that struggles with calculation, you'll just let me know. I will show the calculator on the screen, and then we will all see how we do it. But if there's no one struggling, then that's perfectly fine. So this one is 16 minus 20 over 16 plus 20 divided by 2, everything divided by 100 minus 80, 100 plus 80. Alright, so the answer that I got is minus 1. Let me just confirm and double check. Okay, I did get minus 1. So do we have anyone that has challenges using a calculator so I can show it on the screen, or are we all fine? If there's anyone, please do say so. Someone's hand is raised. You can ask if you want to ask. Oh, someone's saying you can show us. All right, I'll show you.
Give me. Oh yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Sorry, I couldn't see my. Okay, so I couldn't see my chat box, but now I can see. So Daisy was also asking, sorry sir, the formula is Q2 minus Q1 over Q1 plus Q2. Well, the Q1 plus Q2 does not matter if it's Q2 plus Q1 or Q1 plus Q2, because addition does not matter if you're adding 5 plus 10 or 10 plus 5, still the same thing. So is that okay, Daisy? Do you understand now? Okay. All right, so can we all see the calculator on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so remember what I said, right? What you write down is what will appear on the calculator. So we had a fraction there, and then it was 16 minus 20, and then we would go below, open a bracket, 16 plus 20, and then divided by 2. I'll just show you guys what this was referring to also, right? So divided by 2, and then you will divide everything with 100 minus 80. You go below, you open a bracket, 100 plus 80 divided by 2, right? So you can see the answer is minus 1. So let me just repeat one last time. So I'll have 16 minus 20, you just go below, 16 plus 20 divided by 2, everything divided by 100 minus 80, 100 plus 80 divided by 2, minus 1. Is that clear for everyone? If it's not, you'll just say so. So now I'm going back to what Daisy was asking. So I'll just answer you and show you. So I'll remove the divide by 2 there. Also remove the other one. Okay, so you see the 2's are removed, right? So the answer is still minus 1. So the reason I put them there is because of in the formula, they are there, and some lectures or some markers can be strict and then even if your answer is correct, they can still be just give you wrong because you just omitted that. And then also the question of 16 plus 20 or 20 plus 16. So let's start with 20. Let's say 20 plus 16. Still the same thing, minus 1, right? I hope the last part did not confuse you guys, but yeah, it really makes no difference. Yes, the answer is minus 1. So but this answer of minus 1, it can be complicated because remember when we were learning about the categories, there was nothing about a negative number. All right, if you still remember here, you'll see there's no negative number, right? We only have price elasticity of demand that is equals to 0, and then we have 1 which is between 0 and 1, still nothing negative, and we have 1, and then we have infinite, and then we have 1 and infinity, right? So there's nothing about negative 1. So now you're confused, you're starting to wonder which category will this fall under, right? And I think that's the next question. Next question says, which category does the ECO20A online lessons fall under? So this negative here, this negative sign, you just omit, right? You just pretend as if this is 1, but initially you write negative 1 and then you just go and then you'll omit. Therefore, maybe you might write it like this. Therefore is equals to 1, right? So since we can see that is equals to 1, let's go find out under which category does it fall under. It's this one over here, unitarily elastic. All right, so as a producer, this will tell me that consumers will buy less if I increase the price of my lessons, right? I will know that if I increase the price of my lessons, and then my students will buy less lessons from me. So I will gain nothing. I will definitely know that I'm leaving the price as it is for now. Is there anyone asking a question? You can ask. Okay, I think that's a mistake. All right, so is this clear before we move to the next one? Do we have any question regarding this? We all saw that it's unitarily elastic, right? You can just right there. Okay, so now we move to the next question. The next question says, Africa Academics Research Department is working in collaboration with the finance department to select a price for second semester, right? So they're working together, they're trying to figure out what price can we set for the next semester. So the research department went and then did research. They did ask some students, how would you feel if we charged you this much and then we gave you this kind of product or this kind of services in return, or how much would you pay for this and that, right? So this is how they actually come up with all of this. This is just these are not random numbers people sit down and come up with, right? You have to do your researches when you do your pricing, or else you might end up losing to your competition, right? Your competition will come up with the correct price that people really feel that is fair and then are willing to pay for certain services. All right. So the research department of Africa Academics produced the following demand function. Okay. So if you still remember initially, I did mention function somewhere. It was here. I spoke about this demand function. So it is now back. So the moment you see a function, you just suspect they might ask me to use point price elasticity formula. So this is a demand function. Most of you, maybe you know your demand function from calculating equilibrium price, right? QD is equal to QS, and then you work around that. So there's a supply function and then demand function. All right. So number one says use point price elasticity formula to calculate price elasticity of demand if Africa Academics charges 80 rands per lesson. So what is happening here? All right, so remember our formula for point price elasticity is change in quantity over change in price times P1 over Q2. Let's say over Q1. Sorry guys, I was distracted by something here. Okay, so what is the change in Q and change in P? Because we're not given the beginning price and then the next price, or the beginning quantity and the next quantity, right? Because remember the previous question, we were given two prices and two quantities. In this case, we're only given price. So you're starting to wonder, how will I calculate this change? Well, this change here is already given, and it's the number before your price, so your P or your price. So you must take it with the sign, the negative sign here, negative 1. All right, so that means our change in quantity over change in price is going to be equals to negative 1.5. All right, so we have this portion. So what about P1? P1 is given as 80 rands. What about Q1? Q1 is the one that you're going to have to calculate. So you'll come and say QD is equals to 500 minus 1,5, and then in place of P, you'll put your price, which is 80 rands. Just like that. All right, so 500 minus 1.5 and 80 rands. So our Q is 380. So we now have our Q, which is 380. Okay, let me try to move this. All right, perfect. Okay, so now I can substitute in my formula. I'm just trying to find some space. So I will say this, then I'll say minus 1,5 times my P, which is my price, 80 rands, over quantity, which is 380. I think this calculation will be much easier. I won't have to show it. But if there's anyone, you can always shout. We'll definitely show it. So minus 1,5 times 80 over 380, and then we get minus 0,3157. The number continues. If we just round off to 2 decimals, we will get 0,32. Right, that is the price elasticity of demand. And then once again, which category does the ECO20A online lessons fall under, or will fall under in the second semester if Academics decides to charge 80 rands? Right, so 0,32, we will go back to our categories. So remember, you just ignore the negative sign, meaning you have 0,32. So does it fall here? No, does not fall under perfect inelastic. Is it between 0 and 1? Definitely it is between 0 and 1. So this is the inelastic demand, right? It means the consumers will buy less if price increases, but still under inelastic demand, the consumer will still make more money even if they increase the price, right? The consumer will still make more money even if they increase the price. So that is how you will be calculating your price elasticity of demand. Now please guys, one thing to know about ECO20A, it is challenging. So this is one of the easiest things. If you do come across this in your assignment or your exam, you definitely have to get all the marks when it comes to elasticity, right? Because it might be the last. I'm not discouraging you, but this is one of the easiest. I think this is something that you've learned in ECO20A, right? Yes, ECO20A. So, do we have any questions, guys, regarding what we just did? All right, so if there's no questions, then this is a bye-bye from me. So we will meet in our paid sessions, guys. Good night. Thank you very much for joining. Bye.